recall that on the 8th of April 2020, our minister responsible for finance, the Honorable Ken Oforiatta, presented to the plenary of Parliament and subsequently to the Finance Committee what he calls the government's coronavirus alleviation program, in other words called the CAP, in which he indicated that government was going to spend an amount of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis to cushion Ghanaians against the socio-economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The breakdown of the amount of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis included an allocation of 40 million Ghana cedis for the provision of food packages and hot meals, and an allocation of 40.3 million Ghana cedis to the Ghana National Buffer Stocks Company for the provision of dry foods, to support the vulnerable and the ordinary within our communities in the lockdown areas. Also, an amount of 200 million Ghana cedis was allocated for the provision of water and sanitation, including the mobilization of all tankers, privately owned and publicly owned, to ensure the supply of water to all vulnerable communities within the lockdown areas. Colleagues, these three important allocations amounted to 200.3 million Ghana cedis. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, particularly from the media, the lockdown, which was imposed in Accra, Tema, Kaswa, Greater Kumasi, lasted for only 3 weeks, which was lifted subsequently by President Akufo-Addo on the 20th of April 2020. More than a month ago, whereupon government ceased the distribution of hot meals and dry foods in lockdown areas forthwith. Yet to date, government has not provided an information to provide to either Parliament or the general public on how these funds were utilized during the lockdown period for the people of Ghana to know whether or not the intended objectives was actually realized or not. Unfortunately, the low coverage and the haphazard implementation of these interventions during the lockdown period, specifically the distribution of free hot meals and dry foods to the vulnerable, as well as the supply of tankers for water to deprived households, gives some of us cause for concern that these funds were not utilized judiciously by government. This is particularly so as we have cited media reports of state-sponsored COVID relief items meant for the vulnerable being sold in the market by functionaries of the ruling New Patriotic Party in Kumasi and other parts of the country. Indeed, we have in our possession an audio recordings from the Kumasi-based Silver FM in which market women at Tafo Pankrono have confirmed that eggs meant for the vulnerable under the CAP have been diverted and sold in the market by persons associated with certain government functionaries within the area. Colleagues, I will wait at this point and then you can hear from what the Silver FM reported, and then I can come back to you and then make our demands. Thank you. It is very sad listening to the audio. Clearly, the least opportunity, even in times of epidemic, functionaries of this administration seize an opportunity to loot and share, create, loot, and share. To the extent that market women felt that eggs that was meant to support or cushion the ordinary Ghanaian during difficult times were sent to the market for someone to profit from it is shameful. I think it's something that we all have to come together and condemn it. To the extent that the MC of the area has been fingered, I'm surprised to note that MC is still at post. For me, we call on His Excellency the President to, as a matter of urgency, take actions against the functionaries of the administration that has been involved in this act. But let me continue by saying that as a responsible opposition with the responsibility of protecting the public purse and ensuring the judicious utilization of state resources, the NDC calls on the Auditor General of Ghana to undertake a special audit into the expenditure of the amount of 280.3 million Ghana cedis that was allocated for the provision of food, water, and sanitation under the Coronavirus Alleviation Program, CAP. Specifically, we are demanding a special audit into the expenditure of the following three items. Number one, we are asking that the amount of 40 million Ghana cedis which was allocated for the procurement and distribution of food packages and hot meals to the vulnerable in the lockdown areas be investigated. We are also calling on the Auditor General that the amount of 40.3 million Ghana cedis which was allocated for the Ghana National Buffer Stocks Company for the procurement and distribution of dry food to the vulnerable in the lockdown areas also be investigated. Again, we are saying that the amount of 200 million Ghana cedis allocated for the provision of water and sanitation, especially the amount spent on the supply of tankers of water to deprived households, be investigated. This call of ours is anchored on Section 16 of the Audit Service Act 2000, Act 584, which provides the following. And it states that the Auditor General may, in addition to the audit of public accounts, carry out in the public interest such special audits or reviews as he considers necessary, and shall submit report of the audit or review undertaken by him to Parliament. It is in the same spirit of transparency and accountability we call on President Akufo-Addo to direct the trustees of the COVID-19 Trust Fund to provide a report to Ghanaians detailing the total amount of donations we have received so far, who contributed into the fund, and how the amount has been utilized to date. This is, in our view, will boost public confidence in the administration of the funds and encourage more persons and individuals or corporate institutions to donate to the fund to support our collective fight against the coronavirus pandemic. It is important to make the point that we are deeply worried about how the Akufo-Addo government is hiding behind the pandemic situation in the country and engage in reckless borrowings and expenditures, which portends great danger to the country's economy. Particularly, only last week, we found out that the government is printing an amount of 10 billion Ghana cedis through the Bank of Ghana to finance the budget and on the blind side of Parliament, and without any legitimate justification. Indeed, the governor of the Bank of Ghana has confirmed that the first tranche of 5.5 billion Ghana cedis has already been advanced to government, obviously in clear violation of Bank of Ghana's Act 2002 as amended, Act 612, and the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we have all been witness to the unprecedented level of wasteful expenditures, and corruption under the Akufo-Addo government in the last 3.5 years. We all, especially you, the media, owes it a sacred duty to God and country and to demand accountability from the government, particularly and relatively to the expenditure of the huge financial resources we have entrusted into the hands of this government during the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you very much.